Yeah, I think that'd be such a fun job.
It feels like what is it? Step Brothers. How about we interview you? Josh, so okay, you get one question for me and Brian. Ask it.
Just one? Okay, so
one per.
PC. I mean, should we call it? My question: should we call you Captain PC? Because I mean, this is like this. This isn't talking 29 years in the Army is nuts.
Yeah, it's over 30. I think I'm 31 now. 31 years.
Oh, you need to update the website.
I know. I do got to update the website. Yeah, 31. You have done your research. Look at you.
Thank you for your service. That's like genuinely, that's crazy, dude.
I tell people, everyone that says thank you for your service, I always go, thank you for the support. So
yeah,
it makes a lot of people in uniform very uncomfortable when they're told that. But we will never say that. It's like, what do you say?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Okay, what do you got for Brian?
Brian, So you played soccer, and I believe it's Concordia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So how long did you live in Texas? And did you hate leaving?
I lived in Texas from as a collegiate athlete and student from 2007 to 2011. And then I came back to Texas, but lived in Tyler, Texas, 2015, 16, 17.
Also for soccer, right?
I was teaching and coaching at a high school, yeah.
Okay. Cool. I'm partial to anyone that's spent time in Texas.
Well, I have my best friends, family friends live down there. I go down there almost every year for Thanksgiving to visit them. And yeah, I lived there for about 7.5 total years in 2 different time periods. So
sweet, dude.
Yeah.
Definitely not ruling Texas out as a future place of residence again either. But for now, pretty happy in Charlotte.
Yeah. Better than Chicago?
Yeah. Way better than Chicago, dude. The situation I had at the gym there was great. The people there were amazing. Everything else about living in the state of Illinois is not appealing to me in any way. And and all those people at the gym know that too. Yeah, HDR CBD. Thank you guys as always. Put a little post up on Instagram, a story, I guess, of just my 3 favorite products there. The greens that I take in the morning. I always drink a glass of water in the morning anyway, so just throw it in. Oh, great. The gummies that I have, usually one at night. It's like my excuse for sugar, I guess. It's just a little gummy before bed, and then of course the Relief stick that I use all day long. Now that I've been home for the better part of a month, and I've actually been training consistently, it's nice to also have that in the routine. Guest today is Josh Godinez. And
wait, he's the guest? I thought this was his show. He was asking us questions.
He went way out of his way to inform you of every way that you could recognize him or get a hold of him with his handle there.
Yes, it's amazing. It's amazing.
One of the coaches at HWPO and one of the more seasoned and veteran old time coaches in the game of CrossFit in general at the ripe age of
27.
27. Are you older than Jake?
I am, just barely. Yeah.
You just look 10 years younger than him?
I just look, yeah. Time's been better to me, I guess. Jake's a thorny 27, and I'm a youthful 27.
Yeah, but you guys are actually pretty close in age. And I don't know. What was your first introduction to HWPO?
So my first introduction to HWPO is totally as an athlete following their programs. I signed up. I was kind of between. I was really chasing CrossFit as an athlete individually, and I signed up for a program after being between some remote coaching individually stuff that I had been working on for some years, or working with. Jumped on the program coming back from an injury that I'd had, and really, really liked it. It lined up well with my philosophy as what I believed was a good way to train. And also I just saw a lot of results, and so that kept me coming back. Obviously I was drawn to Matt and the ethos of the company. Everything about it resonated to me. So it was I really liked it, but it was totally as an athlete, and then snowballs into eventually me being here.
When you say that you thought it was a good way to train, and when you're evaluating that, is that through just like trying a lot of different training methodologies yourself personally? Did you study, training as a interest, hobby, or a major or anything like that? Or what lens are you looking through when you decide I really like this training system?
A lot of personal experience. I played every sport I could from an early age and found CrossFit when I was 14, and really just fell in love with it. It became a thing of itself where I was like, I knew I wanted to push to be as good as I could at it. From that point on, I just continued to play high school sports. But even by the time I got into college, I was like, no, it's how can I had a very backwards look on college looking back at it. Is like, how can I spend as little time in class as most time training and coaching people? And that's what I did. But I studied biomedical sciences. So in some ways with the whole training thing, it always feels like I brought like a machine gun to a knife fight, whereas I know some things like 20 levels deeper than I need to.
But there's other topics that maybe are
other topics
shallow.
Like, yeah, super. Anything in business, right? But yeah, so that was where I'd landed with HWPO and really liking it was through a lot of trial and error, a lot of trying every way to train to be a CrossFit athlete. I feel like over a big time horizon, like been doing
you
this.
Said you found CrossFit when you were 14?
Yeah.
So half your life you've been doing this. Yeah.
Almost more time than I have been alive. More time doing CrossFit than not doing CrossFit that I've been alive. So
yeah, that's pretty intense. And dude, I love that you continued to play sports through high school despite having the passion for CrossFit. I mean, I really think that Ty Jenkins in the modern era for teenage athletes is like the pinnacle example. He was continuing to participate in his high school sports and winning the CrossFit Games. Obviously, the winning the CrossFit Games part is like that takes a rare specimen, but it also takes like anyone who has the potential to win the CrossFit Games and still has the wherewithal to participate in their high school sports. Like not every potential CrossFit Games champion is also going to make that choice.
100%. I mean, I was lucky in a few ways, like really fortunate that there was a lot of athletes, particularly like I remember like Rich would put out some stuff and talk about how much he thought, high school sports were important and all this. And that at the time really resonated with me. Like, and then also there was not a teen division. I was hoping and praying for a teen division, truly. And I had at the time you could do a custom leaderboard. So when I'm in high school, it's like I knew exactly how I stacked up and I knew that I would do really well. And it was when they announced the team division, I was like just too old by like very, very, it was like a couple months or something. And I remember just being devastated. I thought it was terrible, like a terrible situation. It's like, I can't go do this. And now I got to compete just normal. And these people get a teen chance. It was so unfair, right? Or so I thought. But it ended up being a really good thing because I do think the risk of burnout would be exponentially higher. Like, I don't know if I'd still be here today involved in the sport like I am if I had been able to compete as a team. It's a giant question mark for me. And so I just feel really lucky. And what's cool about it, we mentioned Jake earlier. I know he's in the same exact boat as me on that.
And I've never really spoken to him about that actually. Sometimes like it doesn't register with me with the age that you guys are. And when you first started doing this, that could have been a possibility. But I think the same year that you guys aged out was 2015, which was the year that they introduced it.
Mm-hmm.
Does this picture makes you smile?
It does. Seeing Jake makes me smile.
Yeah, I think the funniest thing about this picture. I think the funniest thing about this picture is like I think this was at the grand opening, wasn't it?
I don't think this one was. This was just a random day we were training. And we had content people in town, Chadrick or Carlos. I'm not sure.
Gotcha. But it looks like you guys are probably watching Steve probably lift. Probably more like.
I can tell you actually what's happening is I'm watching the clock between rests because I get so antsy and just want to keep going. So I have to force myself to rest.
So follow through with the athlete stuff, and then you end up there working at HWPO. It's my understanding it's very spontaneous and just kind of a natural fit that developed. But one of my favorite. You go ahead.
So it was really kind of crazy. It's like I told my best friend, I was actually just on the phone with him because another athlete I'm helping coach, the HWPO athlete called Greasaber, one of my very best friends. I served as coach last year. Owns a gym in Fort Worth that I helped him kind of get off the ground a little. And so Cole's there right now. And I was just talking to this guy, and it's in January of 21, 22 that I told him, I was like, I want to move to Vermont to train. Like, I want to do this. And I told him, and I told my other friend, Chris, and both of them told me in different words, like, hey, that's a pipe dream. That's really unrealistic, but okay. So I had no connection to any of them. And it was funny looking back at it, because I was going to Wadapalooza to compete in the RX division. And I snuck into a meeting. I met Matt, really hit it off, owned up that I wasn't supposed to be in that meeting. Matt didn't care at all. And said, I want to move to Vermont, which I know that now, being on this side of things, we hear all the time at events from so many random people. So there's another guy saying that. And found Jake's contact information through a friend of a friend of a friend, and got on the phone with him, became basically phone friends with him. And eventually it snowballs into getting to work for free as an intern apprentice type person, and really just doing anything I could to help out with HWPO and what they were doing. And then that led to like writing warm-ups, then helping write programs, then eventually helping coach some of the elite athletes. I had a good opportunity with the Rogue Invitational to go essentially corner Sam Kwan and Amanda Barnhart, because Harry Pally had a unexpected family circumstance where he couldn't do that. And that was my entry, and it went well, and it went well enough to where then I got involved with helping coach the elites. And so at that point, I was like writing programs, helping with our general programs that we offer, and then helping coach. And so it just continued to snowball. But yeah, that's how it happened. I was never necessarily intending to work for HWPO, but as that opportunity presented, I definitely jumped on it.
Yeah, that's a cool story. And and it's happened so fast. You know, it's been 2 years since that Wadapalooza in 2022 that you competed at, and just to see how it can happen like that. I also think that, timing is obviously important. And when things are newer, there's maybe more opportunity, and as they get bigger and more popular, more interest, sometimes but that's just how life is. And I like the part of the story where you spoke that, you said that to those two guys, you put that out there, even though you might have thought the same thing if one of them had said it, but you weren't afraid to kind of just take that chance and tell those guys that was something in your mind. What
was cool is when this started to come together, and it's like going out there to train was the original goal. And I ended up being able to do that. Like, a work opportunity presented itself where I was working for free and basically quit my job. Everyone in College Station, Texas, where I'd previously been living for 6 years, thought I'd went crazy because I didn't say what I was doing. I just left. I was living out of my truck for a while. I was living on like a friend's couch and then in an extra bedroom he made for me. Like, it was I put all my eggs in that basket hoping it would work out, and didn't know what would happen. And it's when they asked me to go to the CrossFit Games, essentially just help drive cars and grab coffees for people. I viewed it as my interview, and I was told many times, it's like, this is not an interview. We just need help. And in my head, it was still an interview. And it's the same two friends that were like the biggest, like, you have to go. This is your chance to meet them all in person, and they might hire you and all this. And so luckily they did. It was at the end of that weekend, O'Keefe met with him, and O'Keefe's our CEO, who you guys know, and he let me come on full time after that.
Everyone is the CEO now, by the way, if you haven't seen the Instagram that's going around.
Yeah. No, I don't know what you're referring to.
So it's totally fine.
It's almost like an Instagram CrossFit trend or something like that. But yeah, I'll have to send it to you. You'll notice it's with so cheap.
I don't spend enough time on Instagram. I need to spend more, probably.
It's funny you mentioned Wadapalooza. Was that the meeting? Because I think I was in that meeting. Was that the one that was in the meeting rooms of the hotel?
It was in the meeting rooms of the hotel, but you were not there. And I know that specifically because I go into this meeting, and it's for the people in the elite division. And I knew Matt would be there, and I knew he wouldn't be in necessarily the other ones. It might just be with Jake. And I wanted to meet Matt to tell him I want to go up to Vermont. And I didn't even tell him that in that meeting, but I show up to this elite division meeting, being in the RX division, and it's Drew Wayman's coach Mitch, Matt, and myself. And that is it. And so I was like, and then I had to pose like I
wasn't in that meeting. Yeah. I was in that RX meeting they had before that, because they right next to the media room, the media center, they basically cleared out like an additional media room, and it was all for HWPO like athletes. And I was there for the RX because Matt's like, I was moving my stuff. Matt's like, you're fine, you can stay. So I stayed for a little bit and then left, but I didn't realize there was an elite after that.
Yeah, there was. And actually, now that I remember right, he was going to be at that first meeting, but I knew there was going to be a ton because it was like the scale people, the intermediate, like everything.
They were everyone.
It was like I wanted a small interaction or a personal one.
Well, you got it.
I posed there, and then I felt so bad about it afterwards. I tell him, I was like, "Hey, dude, I got to be honest about something. I'm not in the elite division." He's like, "I don't care." He's like eating a burger, and we just kind of hit it off from there. He went to watch one of my events. So it was cool.
Oh, and I mean, in what is it, 3 years later, you're coaching an elite athlete in the individual division as a 26-year-old coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy. I mean,
that's my family and friends from back in Texas. They think the same thing. What this thing is really taking off. But it's cool.
We often talk about like athletes being rookies, like, oh, this is like Shelby Neal's first time there, Sydney Wells' first time, they're rookies. But I think we fail to see that for coaches. They're rookies too. And I mean, last year was your rookie year as a coach. I mean, you were there previous, but like you said, you were kind of like an intern, just driving cars, whatever, but you were coaching elite athletes. I mean, was it Amanda was the only one athlete you were coaching at that level last year?
Yeah. So the way we did it, we had multiple athletes. We divide and conquer it. Obviously, help across the team wherever you need to. But yeah, I was primarily assigned with Amanda, and that's who I spent my weekend with. And more so spent her weekend with and was there to support her. And it was super cool and had been really involved with her training up until that point into the game. So yeah, it was a really cool moment for me. But yeah, I think I just kind of look at it where it was like, it just felt really natural. Because I'd spent, over a decade being a coach already, just in different capacities in CrossFit. And so it's the same thing, way fitter athletes.
Yeah. And I think, I was backstage. We ran to each other a couple times and I think we shared some conversations back there. And, I think one of the conversations, like, you look comfortable back there.
Thanks. Sometimes it's fake it till you make it, but it's athlete like Amanda, right? Like, and this is not just exclusive to her, it's anybody. They are gonna feel off of the energy you're bringing if you're a coach. And so Jake actually has a really good piece of advice he'd imparted on me. I don't know where he got it, but it's like, to be a good coach, you should be the calmest person in the room, right? Like, the athletes are going to be stressed. It's an emotional thing. Like, an unemotional athlete doesn't exist in CrossFit. Sorry, it just doesn't, right? It's like they put so much of their lives into this and they work so hard. And I know a little bit about that just from my time really chasing it. So it's like, if you can bank on that.
There's one athlete that photographers would push back with you on this.
Oh, I know who exactly he's talking about. Think short.
Colton Mertens.
Colton Mertens. I don't know the guy personally, so I can't speak. Maybe I'm wrong.
But
he's a wild exception. Like, he wins workouts and he has the capacity to win workouts against anybody, but he never celebrates. And the photographers get so frustrated.
Yeah, I would wonder if, like, when in his own mind and when he gets home and it's just him or something, like, if he's not pumped when he does really well. Like, that'd be shocking to me. If he's not, like, really excited that he won or really upset or whatever that looks like when he's lost. But he handles himself really well. And honestly, from before, like, I remember watching him on the step. There was a step up over with D-ball and a Rogue Invitational that was online. And I remember just like, dude, this guy's so easy to root for. Because it's just like, man, it seems so many cards are stacked against him and he just overcomes. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah, he's a savage.
Absolutely.
No, and it's cool. I mean, you guys have a nice environment there where you guys can obviously share wisdom with each other and all those kind of conversations. But I also know from kind of being around you, you each still have a distinct personality that is your own. And I think that's an important balance to have. And also kind of nice from the athletes with you guys is that, for different things or at different times, it might, even if Josh is my coach, there can be times that talking to Harry is going to have a bigger impact, or Jake or whoever.
For sure. Yeah, I try to defer across the team whenever it makes sense, because there's a lot of people that are way more well-spoken or knowledgeable on something than I am, and there's no ego in it. It's about the athletes, and it's about getting them what they need. And if they can get that better from someone else, I always will push them there.
One of the kind of, I guess, from the outside looking in, at least, big, parts that you've had in the HWPO is some of those trips you've taken down to Latin and South America.
So fun.
I have to imagine that that's like, maybe wasn't the pipe dream, but maybe it's like something that you really are happy and proud about.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. So much of my life, I'm like, from a work standpoint, I'm so excited about it. It feels like I'm on a rocket ship. It's just really taken off, and those trips, right, are really cool to me personally. So for a long time, my two biggest goals were to make it to the CrossFit Games individually, to make it to seminar staff individually. I wanted to do both, and neither one really panned out, but I feel okay about it. Oddly enough, I like where I ended up. And what's cool about the LATAM tour, so going to Colombia when we've done these competitions, we went to this competition that you're seeing in the video. Fitlin and Jake and I went to represent HWPO, who had gone with more people the year prior, and ran some workouts and stuff. And we just saw that, hey, this is a market where people are really excited, and one we want to be more involved with as a brand, as a programming entity. And we wanted to do a seminar for them, a training camp. And so Jake and I sat in O'Keefe's office 2 doors over from where I'm at right now with Harry and Steve on the phone. And we pitched this idea of, hey, we should do some seminars down here and do some events and go down. And O'Keefe was very much all for it. And so then we executed on that. We wrote those seminars. We delivered it. Basically everyone on our team had some involvement in this, because it takes a village to do something like that. And it went really well. The seminars were awesome. So it was like, no, I'm not on the seminar staff. I wrote a seminar with Jake, not really a training camp, and got to do it. And people were stoked to be there and signed up, even though it was pretty clear Matt wasn't going to be there. And it was really special to me. And, another part of that's like, I, for so long, felt like I lived my life within the same square mile of the Texas town I was in College Station. And I loved it. I didn't regret that at all, but it was just like, I go to the gym, I go to the grocery store, I go home. That's it. And now I'm doing kind of the same work. I'm still coaching in CrossFit, but I'm getting to go all over the world. Like, I've been to Dubai and I've been to Colombia and Mexico. Like, that's super cool. So yeah, I really appreciate it. Yeah.
No, I think it's amazing that you guys have found a way to integrate with that community there. Patrick and I have had some opportunities to do similar things in different parts of the world. And it's one of the pillars, I would say, of CrossFit as a methodology, is that it's like a universal language. As you can show up in these places that you don't speak their language and they don't speak yours, and it doesn't matter. I mean, in this case, you do speak Spanish, but at pretty much anywhere you go, if there's a CrossFit gym and the language of CrossFit, you're going to fit in really, really well there. And it kind of transcends a lot of cultural differences too.
For sure. Yeah. The tour you guys have gone on, I feel like it's been a lot of them. Like, it's insane. Like, your travel schedule, all of what goes into it. Like, I know a little bit, and it's just, gosh, like, that'll eat you up and spit you out. But it's definitely worthwhile to see everyone that's just as excited about CrossFit in a totally different place than where you're used to. So I agree.
Well, that's a little intro to Josh Godinez. If you don't know who he is, now you know a little bit about him. Our ex-athlete at Wadapalooza is no joke, by the way. Regularly, and will always say that division could be considered elite at almost every other competition around the world. Obviously been doing this for a long time, super passionate about both the methodology and the programming. And he's going to hang out with us here for the next little bit. We're going to look at a few things just from the past week. It was a relatively quiet week in the CrossFit world because we're right in between team quarterfinals and individual quarterfinals, which those workouts were announced today. We're going to get Josh's kind of first blush reaction to them, as all of us are reacting to them within the first couple hours of seeing them. And I'm going to let PC kind of guide it from here.
Let's just start with the quarterfinals, man. Workouts announced. First initial thoughts, Josh?
My initial thoughts are, I think Dave and whoever else programmed these, man, they did a really good job of creating workouts that are going to be accessible to the bottom part of that top 25% that makes it in, and still really tough for the people that are like the Brooks, the Amandas, the Jasons of the world. That it's not going to be a gimme. These are all going to hurt for anyone of any ability within the quarterfinals panel. And yeah, I really like them.
I feel very similarly. I also think that just knowing the general feedback, whether it's criticisms or advice, however you want to, that's been kind of prevalent for the media as a whole in this sport for the last couple of years, it feels like they've leaned into some of that. You think about the way that strength is being tested here compared to ways we've seen it in the past. You think about the style of workouts. I mean, I did see one criticism about rope climbs being an inconvenient thing for gyms or whatever, but it's like, come on, we've been climbing ropes in CrossFit forever, and they've been part of the quarterfinals. I don't think that's surprising to see that on there. And if that's the biggest critique that I've seen after a couple hours, it feels like they've done a really, really nice job here.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Let's start with this first workout. Workout 1. Now, granted, the way the setup's very similar to individuals. You have workouts 1 and 2. They're due Saturday, April 20th at 5 p.m. Pacific. So you essentially have Wednesday till Saturday to do at least workout 1 and 2. So obviously we've heard so many different strategies in terms of how you do it. If you knock them all out, do one per day, and then, maybe retest on Friday and Saturday for the earlier workouts. But regardless, let's talk about workout 1. 4 rounds of max reps of 1 minute snatches for the men, 85 for the women. What was that right? No, women 85 and the men 135, and followed by a minute of rowing for calories. 1 minute of dumbbell box step ups, so 35 pound for the women, 50 pounds, and both to a 20-inch box, so same box height. And then 1 minute rest, and then you start that all over for 3 more rounds.
Yeah. I mean, come on, this is going to really affect the posterior chain. I can tell you that. Like the hamstrings, the drive on the rower, the glutes through the dumbbell step ups. I mean, this one's no joke. This one, when I was looking at it, I was like, this is probably going to be the most painful of them.
Now, this is one I would say that the better you are, the more this hurts. Like everyone will hurt doing this, but when you can seriously consider 20 snatches per minute, and you're not stopping on the dumbbells, it's just how fast you want to go, and then you're sitting there thinking to myself, oh, well, the difference in this workout might be 25 versus 27 calories on the rower, and I don't really want to do 27.
Yeah. I mean, so I was looking at this as like rep speed, right? The time cost of getting a calorie on the rower is significantly less than getting a snatch or getting a dumbbell box step up. So that tells me that an athlete that's going to break through to semis or do really well in this workout is going to have to be cranking on that rower. And one thing I know about the rower, and I know you guys do, is like the difference between getting 20 calories in a minute or 24 it's almost exponentially harder, right? It's so much more energy expenditure, and it's so much more taxing. And so you're going to have to really hurt, to your point, to be able to do well on this. And it's going to probably happen on the row.
That makes the most sense, because that's probably, like you said, the biggest jump in any score, like 20 to 24 versus like 1 or 2 reps on any of the other movements. But
yes, I would say I was pleasantly surprised by the 20-inch box for everyone, but I was surprised by the 85-pound barbell for the women.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it really accessible in that you don't need 5s if you're using a standard 35-pound bar and you're going in pounds, right? But yeah, I thought the same thing with the 20. It's helping like I don't mean to bash on them, like the Coltons of the world or the Jakes of the world. So how about that's better?
There we go,
like
Jakes.
The Jake Marconis. But yeah, I mean, for an athlete with really long legs, they're going to still do just as well at the 20 as they probably would on the 24. For an athlete with shorter legs, they can now have a better stake in the ground here and to still do really well. I mentioned Colton will probably still do well regardless, but
I think just think about it, in general. Yeah. And yes, Colton will do great either way, but in general, there are a few movements in CrossFit that are you can't really do anything about it. They are inherently better if you're taller and if you weigh more. And, arguably in this workout, you have 3 of them. The snatches are debatable, but the rowing and a step up, especially if it's at 24 inches, is massively favorable if you're taller. And then to kind of mitigate that a little bit and balance, I think balance workout with the 20-inch box is nice. I also think that keeping in mind how many people have qualified for this stage of the season, like a 24-inch box step up with two 50-pound dumbbells is, for not elite athletes, that's dangerous. Like you drop 4 inches down and it feels a lot more approachable for a lot of people, not just based on their height, but also based on their strength, their grip strength, their capacity, their fitness, and all of these things. That it is a big range of people who have advanced. So I thought it was a nice change there, and overall, an absolutely brutal workout. I think if you didn't have the time pressure of doing this one on Saturday or by Saturday, that you might put this one off until everything else was done.
Yeah, Brian, I can tell you do this for a living. That was really well said. Completely agree.
Well, I got a question regarding this workout. How big are transitions in this workout? Yeah, granted, you have that minute rest, but transitioning from the snatches to the row, and then to the step ups. I mean, are the transitions are they gonna play a difference?
So it depends on how you're asking. If you're meaning to move quickly from implement to implement, for sure, like you have to transition quickly. But it's sort of what we're talking about, where it's like, hey, the row is going to move the needle quicker than the other two movements will. The way you transition will matter a lot, right? If you're waiting to transition till the 1 minute mark to the rower, and then you get on and actually are rowing, let's say at 10 seconds in, 11 seconds in, and then say you're getting off for the dumbbell box step ups at 50 seconds, well, you didn't give yourself very much time on the rower. Versus another way, right? If you get on the rower at 58 seconds, so you're rowing at the 0, row all the way to the minute, and then get off, lose a little bit of time on the step ups for sure, but maximize that part of it that's fastest is going to take over the quickest with the reps. You're doing well. So it's not necessarily that the transitions being quick is most important here, though obviously that's important. I think it's necessary to have strategic transitions and when you time them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I liked that in the announcement that Baz did on the Instagram today, he referenced Fight Gone Bad here. I know that's a workout that's been around for 20 years. We actually just did it last week at the gym, and I was coaching people on small things like these rowing, when you don't have to strap yourself in and out of the rower at all in this workout. Strap it, get your feet in there, put a couple fingers in and make it tight around your finger, and then you can slide in and out easy. You still have the support from that. You don't have to waste any time. If you read the scorecards carefully, which everybody should be doing, the barbell must be 5 feet away from the rower and box. If it were me, everyone has like a comfortable side to get on and off of the rower from. And you want to think about that from your barbell. You have to walk 5 feet to get on the rower. So that's where that stuff that Josh was talking about. Do I leave 5 seconds early? Do I go right at the last second, or however you choose to do it? But after the row, the box doesn't have to be any distance away from the row, and the dumbbells are allowed to be on the box. So you can make that transition super easy, where you slide out, step to the right, pick up the dumbbells, and you're immediately doing box step overs, like laterally with the rower. So you're not risking falling into it or tripping into it or anything like that. And, in a stage of competition where the margins for error are small, in a workout where it's literally stated 1 rep makes a big difference the people already are talking about this. So that's how Fight Gone Bad is described. All those details matter.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Fight Gone Bad obviously is really similar format, but even that workout, the row is not nearly as important as I think it is here, right? What is Fight Gone Bad has 5 movements in it, so there's so many places to make up reps that you don't have in this workout.
Yeah, I think that it'll be fun to see what the best scores are, and also to see, hopefully how the reps are distributed across these 3 things. Adrian Bosman said that he thinks that for the best, you're going to see relatively similar reps across all 3 movements. I think that we will see some athletes in that category, but we'll see other athletes that really capitalize on either the snatching or the rowing. I don't think that there's that much room for separation on the step ups. If you can go the whole minute, there's just a limit to the pace that you can stand up, open your hip, and come back down.
Yeah, exactly. Completely agree.
I was thinking about just like throwing out some random PC picks for this workout, and I'm still like doing a little bit of research on it. But I mean, I really do like Fikowski in a workout like this, because I mean that snatch weight is nothing for him. the step ups. I mean, he's a decent rower. I also like Vellner, and then even someone like Dallin. And I know I just picked like two taller athletes, but
You
I
just
think
picked 3 of the 5 fittest guys in the world. No problem.
that too. No big deal. But I mean, that's just what I can think of. But when I think about the women's side, it's like I'm kind of like stuck, But
Oh, come on, dude. No, you're not stuck on this. Like this is a power output workout.
that's what
You
I was
want a
thinking.
tall,
Like,
strong person. I mean,
I
if
could,
she's going for it, like Laura is going to put up a score
Yeah.
that's top 5 in the world on this workout.
yeah, I was thinking Laura Freyova, and then even someone like Danny Spiegel, who, I could see her doing well. I mean, that snatch weight is nothing.
Snatch 80. She might not bend her knees at all.
At all, exactly. It's going to be all muscle snatch. Yeah.
Jeez.
But so moving on from
85
that.
pounds. I mean, these women snatch 225.
I know
85 pounds. It's
Yeah.
going to be ridiculous. I mean,
the way they're
even at 135 for the men, like if you do 20 reps in a minute, you're winded there. I think that these women can just rip 20 reps at 85 pounds, and it's like they're not even that tired yet.
85 to women, I mean, goes without saying because it's normally the 95-pound bar, but say it anyway, 85 pounds to the women is not the same as 135 to the men, especially at the top end.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be, if you think back to, as Josh referenced, the online version of 2020 Rogue Invitational, and you just look at the reps that Sam Briggs did in the AMRAP snatch workout, not compared to the women, it was insane. The women in general compared to the men was crazy. And so I think that this workout for the women, like you basically have to send the snatches, whereas the men, it's not as much of a guarantee.
Yeah. Carnage.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be one of those athletes who will probably want to do this more than once, but I mean, I'll do some of the work. I didn't sign up for the Open this year just because just scheduling wise, it would have been hard for me to do it. But I did sign up for the judges course. So
scheduling wise, it would have been hard. I did them in 3 different continents.
Yeah, but you're Brian's friend. You're Brian's friend,
so. It didn't go so well, but I did get them done.
Yeah, exactly.
I like these slates of workouts still for the reason that Josh said. Everyone can play, everyone can start and can go from there. I mean, obviously, if you were good enough to qualify, and I think I will do these workouts. I don't see any workouts here that seem ridiculous to me. So I think that I will do these workouts this weekend.
Yeah.
Workout 2. Pretty simple. 3 rounds for time. 50 wall balls and 50 laterally burpee box jump overs. Time cap 20 minutes. 14-pound medicine ball or ball for the women, 9-foot target. And then again, a 20-inch box for the women. And then we go up to 20 for the men, 10-foot target, and 24-inch box jump.
Josh, do I dare ask you where you fall on the 10-foot, 9-foot conversation?
You can definitely ask me. I mean, I think we've seen both. The fittest people in the world can handle both, no problem. It's as long as it's the same for all the women. This might be a really hot take. I don't think it's a huge issue, but I'm also not a women CrossFit athlete, so maybe I'd feel different if I was. So yeah, that's about my feelings on it. How do you feel about it?
I understand the argument that you say, like, if you're going to drop the weight, don't drop the target or choose one, not the other. But I also mostly hear that coming from either men or women that are pretty tall. And, if you've coached as long as we have, you see people in the gym all the time that you're like, man, if they had to do one more foot, like this would just be miserable for them. And you have to keep in mind that this is, that these are being programmed for massive groups of people. And that even though the women that are going to the games that are 5'2" can handle it, the rest of the people in the world that are 5'2", it's a massive demand for them.
Yeah, for sure. It's I think it falls back in line with the workouts just being accessible to a broader audience, and CrossFit having some awareness that, hey, it's top 25%. So again, I look at that as a job well done from them from a programming side.
And what about this workout? I mean, this just looks
a full Karen plus 150 lateral burpee box jump overs. I mean, That's no joke.
No.
This will be the equivalent to the row GHD V-up workout last year, I think, in terms of how it feels. I had an athlete say that to me earlier, and I completely agree. It's going to be longer. It's going to be a ton of quad fatigue by the time it's all said and done. It's going to be very aerobic. This is a brutal one. Every single workout I see, I'm like, that's the most painful one, and this definitely applies here.
Yeah, this is tough. Obviously, the quads are going to feel it. I mean, Karen's a great workout for most people in general on any given day. 150 burpee box jump overs a time is nasty. The combination of this is bad. I mean, 50 and 50 is a grind to get through one round. You're grateful to get through two, and then you still have 100 reps to grind through on the round 3. I think this is, we're going to see some crazy performances on this, and then you're going to still see a big percentage of people who made it to quarterfinals that are flirting with the time cap here as well.
For sure. Yeah. Karen, I have a deep history with it. It was my first workout I ever did.
Dude, have you ever seen Matt O'Keefe do Karen?
I'm sure he's great at it. I know. I'm pretty sure he's done it unbroken.
He has. I think that he and Fraser raced in that workout one time years and years ago.
They did. I've heard the story.
O'Keefe is such a savage, dude.
O'Keefe's just such an athlete.
Yeah.
He's just in a marathon. I mean, yeah. His body just wants to be fit. It's cool.
Yeah. Except for his one calf.
Yeah, no, that's sore subject.
When now that I see this workout and looking at that first workout, I think there was a lot of talk about Miriam von Rohr, where she won the Open on the women's side. I can see a scenario after the first 2 workouts when that score submitted, where she's probably in the top of that leaderboard, because both of these workouts work in her favor. If you know anything about her in terms of athlete, she's the best. She's best at squatting movements. And
so, Josh, she did 63 consecutive back squats without racking the bar at 225 pounds.
Oh, wow. Okay. And
everyone keeps on calling her a high rocks athlete. And yeah, she does compete in high rocks, but she is not. When you think of high rocks, most people think like runners, right? Mm-hmm. She's not a runner. Actually, that's her worst event. That's probably why she's not the best high rocks athlete, but she's good at everything else in high rocks.
So, and she's you don't know a lot about her outside of this year in the Open. That's the first she's really come on my radar. Yeah. And you being someone that keeps an ear to the streets with this, tell me about what about her? Why is she so good? Let's start there.
I think incredible. She's a little bit. I mean, she kind of reminds me of someone like Ellie Turner in terms of build. Really good at squatting, body weight movements, and we're talking full squats. And she's probably the best high rocks athlete when it comes to row. We're talking her row times are up there with some of the best CrossFit athletes. Wow. Comparative. And
her come over from high rocks to CrossFit?
Pretty much. Wow. Yeah. And and high rocks does a real good job of keeping track of their times and splits at some of these other events in between. And the final event is 100 wall balls and then you cross the finish line. And she has the world record in high rocks for those 100 wall balls. She does those 100 wall balls in 3 minutes.
Jeez. Yeah. At the end of all of the entire high rocks event, that's so impressive.
Exactly. So that's why I'm thinking there's a lot of skeptics, a lot of people are talking about her like, oh, we don't know. But I think, and she's a really good rower. And that weight probably won't be any issue with her with the snatches. And she does have endurance, because obviously high rocks takes endurance, but I could definitely see her doing well in these first 2 workouts and probably being near the top of the leaderboard, especially after this event right here, because the lateral burpee box jump overs, they do what is it? It's basically a burpee long jump.
Burpee broad jump is what it's called.
Yeah, burpee broad jump.
It was actually interesting because they label them as lateral burpee box jump overs. If you read the scorecard, there's a note at the bottom of the standards that says a strict lateral orientation is not required. Athletes may face the box during the burpee or box jump.
We were just talking about that. So we have in-house right now for our quarterfinals week, and we have some AFJ judges, and they're if you don't know, they're trying to, I'm sure you guys do know this, but they're trying to standardize like judging in CrossFit and be a force in this. And so it's really cool to have them here with us. And they're going to help us.
It depends which ones you have. Who do you have up there?
They're all
I think they're all legit
friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have Amy and Manny, and they seem like solid people.
Yeah, they are.
We were talking about this, and what we kind of came to in conversation, I think that's probably CrossFit, making it more accessible to people, sort of in the vein we've talked about. Seems like that was an explicit goal of theirs with how the programs come out. Meaning, if you do the lateral jump up from the burpee, but you're not so comfortable to jump on the box, you can turn and jump, right? Like that's going to help the people that are towards the bottom of the top 25% that maybe are not as comfortable with that jump. On top of that, what CrossFit's doing to say you can rotate if you need to, and you could do these facing if you need to, it's definitely a slower way to do it, but they're also not now needing to be litigious about, well, were you rotated enough? Is this lateral enough? It's going to make the judging of this way more straightforward, which is a good thing, right? There's less ambiguity on, did they do their rep right?
Yeah, I think that absolutely. I just wouldn't have put the word lateral in the image that we're looking at right now, and then just have a note that said no strict orientation is required. You can do lateral or box facing burpee and jump, and just the word lateral there is like just seems unnecessary to me. But I think that for all the reasons you said, it's the way that it ends up being administered is going to be more accessible for most people, easier to judge, less problems all around the board. The one thing I wanted to ask you about, because you've been doing this since before this became a thing, is the forced step. And there are still athletes, high-level athletes in the sport that practice jumping on a box, staying in basically a bottom of a squat position and kind of frogging, jumping off of it, and then they can just cycle these reps back and forth or whatever, or they can get off the box really quickly. Obviously, there are also the history in this sport. We've seen some people rupture their Achilles doing rebounding box jumps in high-level competition. Mm-hmm. Do you think that the step down is a good addition to kind of, programming for the masses recently, or do you think that maybe at the elite level we could still leave it open for if they want to risk it, they can?
Maybe someone will call this cowardly, but I really do like it. I think it's, you're still going to be able to express a lot of fitness, but you're going to be able to do so ensuring some safety. That's a win to me. I think of someone like Alessandro Pacelli, right? Like the D-ball and box jump over workout, the super fast one, the 40-40 at the games. Like that's it's such a tragic thing to have happened, and she's rebounding because she needs to, because that's what the event necessitated if you're going to do well, and she knew she could do well. And it's like the worst thing happens, which is you tear your Achilles, and you step down, you can really hedge your bets that you're not. And so to make that a standard is a great thing. And then same as you go down, I mean, I know a few stories, I'm sure you guys do too, of like people that have ruptured their Achilles in a box jump and rebounding. So I don't know if I think that eccentric loading at the Achilles is super safe. And so I like that CrossFit's making rules to get people away from that. And I can tell you personally, I never feel good when I rebound. I can do it, but I try not to.
I would also say pretty clever use of the box in two different workouts. You have the same box, different height for the men, same height for the women, but very different uses and stimuluses to get out of it.
Yeah, I feel bad for the demo guy on this picture because he's using a foam box, and those are always less stable.
Well, that's Tola on that one. And
is it Tola?
Tola, yeah.
That's Tola. Yeah, it is Tola. Huh.
He knows how to do it. This other guy that we don't know does not know how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, I shout out for that recall with Pacelli though. Look at that, Josh. That's amazing.
Brian told me in Dubai one time that I'm asking him, how do you get this recall? Question I'm sure he gets all the time. And he told me that he went back and he's rewatched every CrossFit Games. He's done it more than once. Take notes on it and did this. And I told him in Dubai, I was like, I'm going to do the same thing. And I did. And it's very helpful. And it's helped me a lot as a coach, and just also someone that thinks this stuff is really cool.
Yeah. It's like you're given homework and now you're showing off.
No, it really is crazy. I was watching the Jeopardy game that they did with the Get With the programming last week. And because I did that for those years, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, everything before that, I just have this like really solid memory for, but I'd stopped doing it for the other years. I think I'm probably going to go back starting. I don't want to watch 2019, but I'll start with 2021 and I'll watch from there. We know what happened in 2020. Matt and Tia won every event. And then in 2021, it's like new era. So, but sometimes I get 2021 and 2022 confused in my mind. So probably need to watch those again.
So that's workout 1 and 2 due Saturday, April 20th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So yeah, have fun redoing any of these workouts before Saturday. So,
and especially, I mean, that's probably a really good point. Like, don't rush into these first 2 workouts. Whenever you do them, make sure you have multiple cameras set up. Make sure that you're checking all the boxes in terms of distances. You know, record yourself doing the reps. Make sure everything's in frame beforehand. Like, don't get in a situation where you did the workout and you have to redo it because of any one of those technical errors.
Yeah, and if you do have a media team there, make sure they stay away from the clock.
2 clocks, baby.
2 clocks, exactly. Josh, did you see what happened at Mayhem with Angel DiCicco?
No, I didn't. What happened to him?
Nothing happened to him, but during one of their team workouts, one of the cameramen tripped the clock that was in the video, so they had to start the workout over.
And it was the it was the 20-minute. Was it the chipper one? It was
I think it was
the one with the toes to bar.
Yeah, with the toes to bar.
Yeah, but it was So yeah, Presley knows. Rest in peace, Bennett.
Oh man, tough shout out to get. That sucks. I hate that for him.
So I mean, I would say that these first 2 workouts are very high on the capacity side of things, and then we get into the last 2 workouts that are extremely distinct from each other. One is a specifically gymnastics test. One is a specifically weightlifting test, and we have the gymnastics one first.
Yeah. So 4 time, 3 rounds, 10 handstand push-ups and 20 toe-to bars. And then you go to 2 rounds of 10 strict handstand push-ups, 5 rope climbs to a 15-foot rope. And so 2 rounds of that. And then you finish with 1 round of 10 chest-to-wall handstand push-ups and 20 muscle-ups.
Yeah, ring muscle-ups, which was not clear until you saw the scorecard, but ring muscle-ups there. Josh?
Time cap, 15 minutes. 15.
Yeah, a lot of gymnastics all in one place, right? I do think these muscle ups, one of my first thoughts when I saw this, these muscle ups really took me back to the wall facing handstand push-ups to end that front squat workout at the beginning of quarterfinals last year in 2023. That's, if you saw that workout and watched a lot of videos of people, even at the top end, you saw a lot of small sets on an otherwise small seeming set of wall facing handstand push-ups because people are so blasted by that point. And I think this set of muscle ups and strict chest facing handstand push-ups are going to be really similar, where it's like you've done so much output with the handstand push-up by the time you get there with a toes to bar and the rope climb. So I do think you'll see people really blown up on those last 20.
Yeah, and I mean, the handstand push-up volume doesn't seem to be too crazy. You know, you got 30 regular handstand push-ups. You can kip them if you want to. 20 strict handstand push-ups, which a lot of the top athletes can do. They could do 20 in a row if it was just one set and they needed to. And then 10 wall facing. So you get to 60 total, but half of them are kipping, which is like, for an elite athlete especially, is very easy. But it's going to have that compounding effect that you talk about. And the most people fail the dip part of the muscle up. And I won't be surprised if especially the last 10 muscle ups, even for good athletes, end up being an extra set than they were thinking that it needed to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think small sets on that muscle up is going to definitely be the way to go for the masses, right? And you got a lot of work to get to that point. 5 rope climbs in a single set's no joke either. Even if you're only doing 2 sets, I mean, that normally fatigue setting in much sooner than that on a set of rope climbs, right? 2 is you can hop down, come back up for a lot of people, but on 5, that's usually not happening.
Yeah, I think that for us, kind of a gymnastics and skills test, they have a good balance here between press and pull. There's definitely muscular fatigue involved, and for the best, it's still going to be fitness and some element of kind of strategy. I do think that of all of the workouts, this is one that you could repeat if you need to more easily than some of the other ones, especially athletes that are going to be on the fringe of semifinals and not making semifinals. And it is a workout where you can have a strategy that goes poorly, and you might be sitting there after the workout and say, man, if I had just done this instead of that, I could shave a minute off here. Like, I think that people will be in that scenario. So if there was one that I was expecting to see most people redo, I would probably bet on this one.
For sure. The way this one's structured too, with the descending rounds and the kind of smaller seeming sets with only 10 reps or 5 reps in the rope climb, it's one where I do think even if you're not a gymnastically inclined athlete, you can look at it and piece it together where it's like, no, I could do this. I can have a chance. And so I think it's cool. With that, I think it'll be something that, should you do it not like how your scores were on this, you can redo it and you're going to feel the same way where it's like, oh no, I can redo that.
Any other questions about this one, Patrick?
Well, do you see anything with the wall facing? Anything? I mean, you're using the same tape line that you're using with the.
I think
with
that
the
the
regular
10-inch
handstand
tape line
push-up.
has become a very routine practice for people who, especially anyone who's trying to compete. Gyms are programming with it now. This is a very, I would say, approachable standard for handstand push-ups compared to most we've had in the past. In terms of the capacity, by the time they get there, I'll just defer to Josh.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I noticed, it's a little bit sidestepping your question, Brian, I don't mean to, but when you asked, something I noticed on the wall facing handstand push-up is that they don't say anything, as far as I can see, about wall walking up for that wall facing. You can just kick up, I'm fairly certain. So that's different for sure. And I wonder if that's going to give people just a little bit of extra energy to be able to have some output there.
That is a good observation. I hadn't thought about that. But I do know in the team competition, it was similar. And we spoke with one of the coaches from Oslo who talked about even the transitions of being able to kind of cartwheel into that position and go were something that they were practicing, because they had to switch between teammates even.
Yeah. It's this
again,
part
though, when you think about we used to use the word litigious, it just makes it easier from the judging and review standpoint.
Absolutely, it does, which I'm a fan of, right? I think the more we can move, or the more CrossFit can move some of these online competitions, be it quarterfinals, age group semifinals, whatever, to be set up in a way where you can just see, okay, what was their fitness like? Like, how did they have output, and not did they adhere to these standards that didn't have much to do with the fitness? That I think they're moving in a good direction. The more that happens, the better, for me at least.
We'll move on to the final workout. Well, depending on what order you decide to do these workouts.
Well, it's the final listed workout.
Final listed workout, yeah. But it's like you talked about, you had the gymnastics. Now you have some of the lifting here. So complete as many reps as possible in 10 minutes of 10 clean and jerks at weight 1. And weight 1 is 85 for the women, 135 for the men. Then you rest a minute. Then 10 clean and jerks again, weight 2 at 125, 185. Rest a minute. Again, clean and jerks, weight 3. And that weight's 155, 225. And then rest a minute, and then max reps, clean and jerks in the time remaining at weight 4. And that weight is 165 and 245. And you have again, time cap of 10 minutes. So you already have 3 minutes accounted for. So you essentially have 7 minutes of work at various weights. We've
essentially seen this workout before, which I think is cool. So this is the age group workout from their semifinal of 21. I think it was their 4th workout. And then it's also been in the Atlas Games before when they had their competition. And so, or in one of the years, their competition. So they've done it with snatches at the same weights. And so now it's clean and jerks at the same weights. It makes it, again, to use a word we've used a lot, more accessible. But it's also going to mean that the reps that are required to do really well in this work are going to be higher. So I like this one. I think it's a good test of capacity on a barbell without being explicitly just a max out. And it's going to be really dictated by how strong you are in a clean and jerk, even though the weight is 165, 245, right? It's how strong are you to keep cycling it. So what's your stamina there?
I mean, 10 clean and jerks, 85, 135. Almost everyone who's making the quarterfinals can do 10 touch and go if they want to. But for who would you actually advise that?
You mentioned Deli Turner, if she was competing her.
Good call.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the cost of doing touch and go in that first round, and is it worth paying for any category of athlete?
So when we're looking at touch and go, we're looking at what's the energy expenditure in usually posterior chain and leg drive? And then also what's the heart rate spike that's going to happen from that? If you're an athlete that's fit enough to have your heart rate come back down in a minute, come on. And then if you're someone that's strong enough to where that's such a low percentage that you can still be strong at the final barbell, it's worth it. However, on that third bar, I do think that's where you're going to start to separate the wood from the chaff a little bit, where it's the strongest of athletes in the field on this specific workout will be doing some, if not all, touch and go. And then lots of people will likely be at singles at that point because they're either managing for the end or because they have to be because they're just not strong enough.
Yeah, CrossFit, it's not there's some time that you gain, but it's probably either negligible or detrimental for a majority of people who are doing quarterfinals. And say, 185 is going to be relatively, I think by that point, you're going to see people, even the best will choose to do singles no matter what. And 225, same thing. The cycle rate and the time between reps is what will be the difference. But ultimately, you got to be able to move that 245 bar really well if you want to score high on this workout. I
do also think this might be a hot take. 245 to the best of the men's field versus 165 to the best of the women's field is a pretty different weight. Mm-hmm. I think your best clean and jerkers of the female elite athletes can really move 165 faster than the best clean and jerkers of the elite men can move 245. So I think we'll see a situation where women are scoring better on this workout at the top end than the men are.
I was going to ask you that question specifically. It is always a fascinating conversation. We once again see the entry weight of 85 as opposed to the 95 that we're accustomed to seeing when the men start with 135. I think what you mentioned about the ease of loading a barbell is probably being considered there, especially for people who might be doing this in a location where the rules state you can set up multiple bars. You can have people change your weights for you, or you can change them for yourself during the rest period. So again, easy to administer, a lot of different options there. But if you don't have multiple bars available, the changing of plates is is pretty simple with what they have there for what most people would have available. And I think that they're considering that. I would say that off the bat, I had the same thought. Maybe the last bar for women could be 10 pounds heavier to have a more similar stimulus. But you spend more time on a daily basis with especially female athletes of that caliber than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I feel similar about it to when we were talking about the shorter box. Like the best athletes will still be able to separate, but the athletes that are not quite as strong will now have a little more of a dog in the fight here and be able to get some reps where maybe they couldn't if it was 10 pounds heavier. So I like it personally. Yeah, I will say also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, it's super power move to anyone that's changing their own weights optionally on this and doesn't necessarily have to. That's cool. Like respect. I would not be that person.
No, I would be as soon as my last jerk was up, I would be sitting on a box.
Help, come to me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and then
you got 1 minute to bring that. You got 1 minute to bring in the pit crew to hit up the arms and maybe put those hybrids.
But Josh, we saw this during reps ahead. It's actually as a serious part of this workout is what do you do during the rest minute? We saw athletes that would pace around the entire time. We saw athletes that immediately sat down. We saw athletes that had it down to the second. I'm going to get up at this time to make sure that my legs are under me. What would you maybe do, or what would you advise doing to maximize the rest that you have to take in a workout like this?
I'm a big proponent, and I know Matt is too, of sitting down. You get off your feet. If someone else can change your bar, let them do it. And try to get that heart rate down. Deep breaths, shake out the legs. Treat it like a weightlifter would treat being between sets. That's what I would recommend personally, and that's probably what I would gravitate towards if I was doing this workout.
I think that's probably very well said. Before the workouts were all announced, there had been advertised that there were only going to be 4 scores in general this year. We see there are only 4 scores in general this year. There's been a lot of conversation about changes to the season with having a much bigger number of people eligible to take this part of the test and a smaller number of people qualifying to the competitive regions in North America and Europe. When you see these 4 tests and know those things, do you think this is a good set of 4 tests to accomplish the goal?
It's a really relevant question, right? I mean, I'm smiling because it's another year where people are upset about changes to the season. I feel like we've heard this story a few times over.
Yeah, but I think it's one thing to be upset at the changes to the season without knowing everything that the people who are making those decisions make. But now we see the tests, and so we have the information that they have. They don't know how the athletes will do on the tests. They don't know how judges will do with the things that they've tried to make easier or harder or whatever. But now we see them and we know the format. And so I think we have more grounds to stand on for asking a question like that.
Yeah. I think, press for a decision on that. I would say, yes, this is a good set of workouts to separate the best from the rest, right? And getting into semifinals. It's something that, my confidence in that's not really that high in the way of, well, I want to see what the leaderboard looks like on Monday because maybe I'm totally wrong. But at the first glance, I would say, yeah, there's total opportunity for someone that is fit enough and should be in a semifinal, should be making it past the semifinal to the games to make it through these workouts with no problem. I don't see any reason why. I don't see any workout where there's just so little opportunity for separation that it's going to keep people that otherwise, quote unquote, shouldn't be there making it through.
Yeah, I think that's super well said. And at most of the semifinals, the athletes that are perennially finishing in the top 10 or making the games every year, there might be one in a given year that like the slate of workouts that come out is going to have an impact on. But those people are going to make it to the semifinal no matter what 4 tests you put out here. That's why they do that every year.
Yeah.
And at the margins, this is just the nature of this sport. The margins are small. They're small for people that are fighting for podium positions, top 10 positions, the last payment at a competition. And they're small for people that are trying to qualify to the games. And they're getting small for people who are trying to make it to semis. I mean, we saw on team side of things, 3 points and 3 teams, and 1 gets in and 2 get out. And that's, these are the fine details. And yes, there are people that will miss the semifinals that because of this programs at semifinals workouts would have beat a couple of the people who ended up making it through. But that's the game that you signed up for.
Yeah.
If you can't make it through the stage that precedes the stage you want to be at, then you're not good enough. That's the point. And if you have not been listening to Dave and Adrian, they are programming this very much with not just consideration for where the sport is at, but for where the sport has come from. And if you don't have the capacity, and if you aren't strong enough, and if you aren't skilled enough, and if the answer to any one of those questions is no, then you shouldn't be at the semifinal yet.
Yeah, I'd say I tend to agree with all that. It does seem like the way this is set up, your athlete that's a very powerful, big athlete, I'm sure a ton come to mind, that can skate by on workouts because of their size and power that they have. They're getting less of an opportunity here to get that pass. Like this is very much more towards the lane of capacity and very capacity driven. And that athlete might not have as much of a shoe in with this set of workouts. And then looking at like what was in the open. So it'll be interesting to see how that translates into what's programmed for semifinals.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really crude study, but as soon as I saw the workouts, because I'm going to CrossFit Crash tomorrow to watch those guys throw down on Savant's podcast, I just put out my picks for each workout. I just listed them out, and I had, you just see these patterns. Well, I put Jason second, fourth, second, and keep in mind that this is like 4 of the best guys. Like they're really fucking good. But I think that's a good case study. Jason is a power output athlete. He's super strong. His fitness is obviously also elite, but when you're going against guys that are so elite level fitnesses, the small things matter. And so you look at workouts 1 and 4, and I think that these are the 2 workouts that Jason or any athlete similar to him is going to do better relatively to the field than the middle 2 workouts. And that's a good balance where you can take an athlete that is on the upper end of the height and weight spectrum relative to people of elite fitness and say, yeah, there's 2 workouts that are slightly favorable for him and 2 workouts that are slightly unfavorable for him just based on anthropometrics or whatever. Does that mean that tall guys can't do well on the gymnastics test or on the burpee boxing movers? No, they can do great on that too. But relatively speaking, I think there's a good balance considering all of the limitations that the programmers had to design this test with him.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like, this is not true 100% of the time, but I think in a lot of situations, if you're an athlete that's looking at workouts and looking at your performance on a workout or perspective or expected performance, and then immediately going to, it's like, well, it's because they're going against tall people or they're going against short people or they're going against heavy people. Like, I think you're usually already losing. Like, this, you're not looking in the right area. But there's definitely situations where it's like that falls off. Like, for example, the pull-up bar height debacle of a couple years ago with Granite Games and stuff. I mean, like, there's some obvious situations where that's what I'm saying is completely not true. But generally, I think that's not something to fixate on if you're trying to be an athlete that's really pushing through to the highest levels of the sport.
In the past with the quarterfinals, it feels like a lot of athletes have chosen to do the strength test before the others just for the nervous system more than anything else. Do you think that that'll be similar this year, even though it's more of a metabolic weightlifting test, or will we see a variety of strategy not having that more 1 rep max or complex?
I definitely don't think that the majority of athletes will move to the barbell first. I might be wrong. But I think because it's not just an outright max lift, there's less of a demand for most people to need to do that. And that opens the door for you to prioritize these workouts in the way where you're hitting most likely your weaknesses first. And the workouts you really need to prioritize doing well at, giving yourself an opportunity to redo if you need, and also giving yourself the opportunity to hit it when you're most fresh. The workouts where you need to really show up. And that doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to be doing the barbell one first if that's the case.
I think so too. With the design of this test, there's a little bit more room for flexibility. The first year of quarterfinals, they had 4 rep max front squat. Like, you're not doing that first, or at least maybe do a Metcon and then hit it, a half hour later or whatever. Like, any other strategy outside of that seems fatal.
Yeah. What a brutal front squat test.
Terrible. Well, so that's just to look at quarterfinals. We know a lot of people are talking about it, but we wanted to get Josh's insight. Obviously, having had some high level competition experience and working with some of the best athletes in the world, so appreciate him kind of sharing those insights and thoughts in relatively short order. Any last things you wanted to share from your copious amounts of notes that you took down before we move on?
That's the beauty about taking copious amounts of notes is you use like 2% of them. But that's how the game should be. No other thoughts. Thank you guys for having me. I really do appreciate it. And it's cool to get to talk to you guys who are obviously such professionals at what you do.
Oh, fucking professionals.
Well, we do want to ask you about 1 or 2 other things, if you don't mind. I think a lot of people know that this past weekend, there were some members of our community who took part in the Boston Marathon on behalf of charity. You can sign up and compete in the Boston Marathon if you go through the right channels. At least 2 of them personally, and Sammy and Matt O'Keefe, and Cooper Marsh also was out in that. Did you get a chance to talk to any of them before, during, after the marathon?
Yeah, I mean, I texted all of them the night before just to say good luck and the standard stuff. Running a marathon's no joke. It is so brutal. And it's something where I think it's become something where I know so many people that do it. It's easy for me to not give it the reverence it probably deserves, where it's like, oh man, this is a knockout, drag out race to run, right? 26.2 miles. And I mean, Cooper Marsh has a really good post. If you want to put it up about what it looked like in the back end, you see O'Keefe's calf taped up. I mean, gosh, like Sammy, I've seen her the last 2 days. I mean, when she first came back from Boston, I couldn't make it out because we had athletes here. I wanted to, but she just looked so smoked, like just tired eyes. And it just speaks to how difficult what they did is. So yeah, really cool stuff. Something I've never done.
right side of the screen here, you're gonna see Cooper cross the finish line and then almost
It's
collapse
such a
into
brutal video.
the medic's arms there. He did have a very impressive sub 4-hour marathon run, despite I guess he maybe blacked out towards the end of the race. I'm not really sure. He this is what happened. Like, you run a marathon and some stuff's gonna liable to happen, and he experienced kind of the brunt of it. He went into some details there in the explanation if you want to check it out. He is all right, but it's like Josh said, it's no joke running a marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it says in this post is he asked the medics when he came to a while later, it's like, am I going to die? Like, it speaks to what's going on.
Yeah, but that also just seems like something that he would say if you know his personality.
Fair.
I've had heat stroke 4 times, and I know exactly how this feeling is. And it's kind of like anytime you get an injury.
Experience those 4 heat strokes for your freedoms, Josh.
Thank you.
No. 2 of them were military related. Another one was CrossFit related, and then one was football related. But the military, it all started with the military, and I think it's kind of like a sprained ankle. And I think I messaged Cooper about this. It's like, it's one of those things when you get heat stroke once, you're more susceptible to it later on because your body it remembers that and starts shutting down. So when he was going through that, like, it really is like watching him come across that finish line, kind of in that zombie state. He doesn't remember the last mile or so. It's almost like, if you watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, it's kind of like being browned out, or blacked out. And so, it's a big wear. That's why I'll never do a marathon. I've done a half marathon, but I have done something. It's called the Baton Death March, which is you ruck 22, a full marathon. And I did that in 7 hours. I remember afterwards, my body just completely shut down after something like that. I didn't get heat stroke, which I was surprised, but it's quite an accomplishment for Matt, Sammy, just her going after that soon after having the baby, that challenge, and Matt doing that. And then let's not forget that they did this all for a cause too.
For charity and raised significant amounts of money, all of them.
Yeah.
That's obviously super cool. One Summit, if you haven't checked it out, it's a really cool charity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's craziest to me about this, or what's been blowing my mind, I hope this is okay to say, is Cooper is somebody of the 3 of them. I know he had the fastest time.
Mm-hmm.
O'Keefe had some stuff transpire with his calf, and Sam was a little behind O'Keefe. And all 3 of them are people I would regard as really fit people. Like, they're especially, I look at them compared to the normal sector society. It's like, oh no, you are fit, you're in shape. Cooper, I would say, is a really good runner. It's like his time, despite the blackout, is still really respectable, just under 4 hours. And he's in like 15,000th place, like not even the top 2. And it just is such a mind blow to me that people are that good at running this distance. And then when you start to think about, like, ultra marathons are a thing and stuff like this, there's a guy that works that I know just through HWPO named Jed, who will do ultras and things like this. And it's just, I don't even have the framework to get my mind around it. It's just nuts.
Josh, did Patrick pay you for that segue?
It's almost like it's like a perfect segue.
He has no idea.
However, I'm not done with the Boston Marathon, but man, Josh, you went a little too early on the whole ultra marathon. But I went.
I'm sorry.
But no, that's all right. It's all good, man. I love it. But before we move on from this, I think I want to send a shout out to Ben Massey here. For those who don't know,
gosh,
Ben, Ben
4 and 4 weeks.
Yeah, Ben is the founder and founder of RAD, and he actually did the Boston Marathon as well. And then he immediately got on a flight and flew back. And I guess he's going on a tour where he's just running marathons. So he's back in England and he's running a marathon as well. So, shout out to Ben. He's actually putting his shoe, the RAD runners, or I forgot what they're called, but he's putting them through the test. And what better way to show that your shoe can hold up? And this is him. He's got the taped nipples. And for those I don't know,
this is in Paris last week. He did the Paris marathon.
Paris, yep. So,
guy's a savage, dude.
Yep. He's a cool cat. I've spoken with him just briefly at multiple points, and every time I do, I'm like, man, you definitely, there's something special about him for sure, in a good way.
Yeah.
2-time team athlete at the CrossFit Games back in the regionals era, excuse me.
Yeah. But going back to that segue, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, Josh, but we do this thing called the Friend of the Week. And it's kind of like, if in other sports they have like Athlete of the Week or, stuff like that. So we wanted to kind of do something similar for CrossFit. They don't have anything like that, kind of a weekly award. And we call it the Friend of the Week. And this week's Friend of the Week was Christy O'Connell, or some people might know her as Christy Aramo. She ran her first ultra marathon this past Sunday, 50K ultra marathon in Zion National Park in Utah. And it's quite impressive. Actually, I should probably pull up the actual post. But she, it was just, Brian brought it to my attention because, for us to do this weekly, we have to find something amazing that's going on. Last week we honored
McGovern.
Connor McGovern. So it doesn't have to be really, someone that's doing something. It has to be something during that week, but it doesn't have to be.
You have to be friendly. That's the main requirement. Be
friendly, but it's fitness in general. So, but Christy just crushed it. Obviously she won that High Rocks in Houston, the same one that Mal and Cooper ran in the team division. But 2 days before her 35th birthday, she finished in 5 hours 30 minutes roughly, and her time placed third in her age group was 30 to 34, which is usually for women one of the more competitive age groups, men and women. That's usually one of the competitive age groups, and 14th among all 194 women that competed, and 35th out of all 454 athletes that ran, men and women. And so that's our Friend of the Week. So thanks for that little segue there, Josh.
Dude, shout out to Christy. I feel like burned in my CrossFit memory bank forever is going to be when she was on that Jackie Pro workout at the semifinals. She's just ripped up and like just crushing it. Like it was awesome. And she's such a cool athlete to watch. I don't know her well. We have some mutual people, but she it's really impressive, her endurance. That's for sure. She's like the new age Sam Briggs.
Yeah, and so it is always cool to see some of the CrossFitters, parlay their fitness into some of these other endeavors. I would say that if you gave me a list of 5 things that Christy was going to do a couple years after CrossFit, ultramarathon would be something that makes sense for her, but that doesn't mean that it's easy. You say she did, she's participating in the High Rocks a few weeks to a month before that, probably just part of her training, building up the volume that's necessary for this. And 5 hours and 30 minutes of anything is a big demand. What a beautiful place to do it though, over in Zion.
Yeah.
Josh, if you can say, I mean, you got a full house this weekend for quarterfinals outside of Jason. So is it kind of cool having, I mean, I know you had all those athletes up there for 24.3, which was more the community. I guess the quarterfinals more your, get quarterfinals more of the games semifinal type athletes. I mean, how's it feel to have everyone kind of like cycling back in?
It's such a breath of fresh air. So the way we do business and operate with our HQ building is that we leave it open for times like this. And so it makes when these times like this roll around really cool, where there's just a life in here and there's a lot of people that are, dialed in on whatever that weekend has going on, and this weekend being quarterfinals. So we got 3 people in-house. We have Brooke Amanda, and then Justin Doings, a semifinals athlete who, if you don't know the name, it's worth figuring out who he is because he's just such a solid guy. He's here with his wife. He's a police officer, does a little more than just that in Fort Worth. And so he's also super fit. So they'll all be here throwing down from now to Monday. And then we just have some people here to support them.
That's awesome. And Matt kind of mentioned on the podcast with us that I guess you guys have a trip to Europe planned pretty soon.
Yeah. So HWPO, we're going to be activating just kind of through Europe before that semifinal. So a lot of that and the details around that, I'm probably not the best person to ask. Just the way of like, I know them, but I wouldn't want to mess them up. So our website and our Instagram is where we have a ton of that. So HWPOtraining.com, and then the same name for Instagram, HWPO Training. And so yeah, they'll be out there, and it's going to be a really cool tour. It's been planned out to the T, like anything we do, and hopefully it'll be something where anyone that gets to be around the people I get to work with are going to walk away feeling really happy and excited about it.
Well, I think
we included Justin Doing in our North America Men's West preview that we did a couple weeks ago, 28th out there last year. It threw me off for a second because like I think about HWPO Northeast, East Regional. I was like, I'm pretty sure Doing's out West, but obviously you can coach people from wherever. So
yeah, he is. So we have at that West Regional on the men's side, we have him he's a semifinals athlete. Obviously, we have a ton of people on the pro track. Rafa Sanson's another one. We have Cole Greasaber, Sam Quant there as well.
Strong.
Yeah. A lot of really fit dudes.
I always love anytime I get to see Cole Greasaber compete. I love it because he doesn't compete a ton. And you know, when it's like a rare Pokemon for me, like athletes that don't do a ton of off-season competitions or whatever. When I get the chance to see them live, like I really hone on them because I feel like I have to maximize that opportunity to learn about them.
Man, that guy's dialed. We were joking at the beginning of this, like about Jake seeming older than he is. Cole Greasaber, just by personality, if you were to speak to him and regularly get to engage with him, you would walk away being like, how old are you? Like, you're not 30.
Imagine it was on a blind dating show. You think you're talking to some grandfather. I mean,
yeah, he's just so like.
And can you imagine, like, they're like, I'm absolutely not picking that guy. They lower the curtain. You're like, the girl's like, what the heck?
Yeah, and
he's a stud, you know.
Yeah, yeah. If you want to see peak male physique, like seriously, pull up his Instagram. One of his most recent posts, like it's. I saw it. I showing Steve and Jake. I was like, look at this. He's crazy.
Yeah, man. He's a great athlete, incredibly fit. So we'll be fun to see him later this year.
One of the athletes that maybe you can, if you want to talk about is that you've had a pleasure kind of working with is Victor Hoffer. I mean, how's that? I mean, you talked about kind of that remote coaching, and then you have an opportunity to go over to Europe and probably work with him a little bit more hands-on, you and Matt. I mean, how is it working with, I mean, what are you finding with the language barrier, if there's any?
So I've actually not been to Europe to be with Victor. I got to be with him at Rogue. It was really special for me. So I'm from Texas and know people all over the state. And I got to go in. He came in really early to prep. It was his biggest competition to date outside of maybe the European semifinal. That picture is like right around the first time I got to meeting him. But we spent a few weeks out there, just he and I, and like training and getting him kind of tapered in properly and adjusted properly to the time, and went to a Spurs game to see Victor Wembanyama, who's the other preeminent French Victor in sports. But yeah, he's a stud, right? He's got some stuff that we know we didn't teach him for sure. He's a insane top level gymnast out of France. And then he's coupled that with getting really fit to boot. And so what's cool is Steve Fawcett primarily is the one that works with them. And Steve, if you don't know him, I know you guys do, is the guy, use the word professional, but he is a consummate professional. Like, he knows what he's doing in terms of coaching athletes as good as anyone I have ever met, if not the best. And so he's really done a lot with Victor. Victor had some movement quality things that Steve worked to address right away with him, and that have really opened up a ton of performance for him. So I'm excited to watch his season. It's such a pleasure. And then if you get to know Victor, that sounds always demeaning to say this. I don't mean it demeaning, but he's a sweet guy. Like, he's just a sweet, sweet guy. Like, he's nice, and he's
like you.
Person. Oh, thanks. Hopefully you didn't mean that demeaning either. It's Victor is somebody where if you get to talking to him and you get to see how gifted he is, you get to see how good he is at gymnastics, how hard he's worked for everything else. I don't know how you couldn't root for the guy.
It's so funny because, again, he's segueing. I mean, because that could be used to describe this woman right here.
What's up, Josh?
Oh,
Hey,
man.
guys.
What's up, bro?
Okay, I'm gonna take y'all back 2 years. 2021 2021 quarterfinals. Josh actually came to Midland, Texas, and did quarterfinals with me.
Wow.
He was
Throwback.
was he your pace car?
No.
I don't even know how it got up.
Do you know what pace car is, Josh? That's a guy that goes fast for one lap and then just fades off.
Yeah,
see him
I
a lot
don't
in
think good enough to
marathon.
even do one lap at Ariel's pace.
No, he knew before he came. I was like, "Hey, Josh, you're awesome, but like, I really like to go by myself. So, with all respect, you go, and then I'll go."
Yeah. Gosh.
Ariel, you
what's
done
up?
any of these workouts yet?
She did all 4 of them
No,
already.
I'm itching to though. I just talked to Dylan about it. I was like, "Which one do I do? Which one do I do?" And he's like, "Just wait till tomorrow. Like, it's okay." Because at first it was the burpee box jump over one. I was like, "Okay, I'll do it tonight." Then it was like, "Well, I might as well start out with workout 1." Then it's like, "Well, why wouldn't I do the gymnastics one first? Because that one's, you know." But like, I think I decided I will start tomorrow.
What
Yeah,
will the redos look like for you, Ariel? Is it a set situation that you will be redoing, kind of like how the open worked, or does that not apply here? What's the philosophy?
That's the hard part that I'm trying to decipher, because the reason I redid the open workouts multiple times was obviously there was prize money involved. So I wanted to be top 5. For this, it's like, I just have to advance. I don't think redos are necessary unless something bad happens.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I started laughing at this comment.
I should go. I could twist it.
Ariel pulled the ultimate mom card, refusing to go, Lance. There we
There
go.
we go.
There we go.
But another reason she is the best.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Completely agree.
Love it.
I did. I've spoken with a few athletes and coaches, and I think because of the time that they're releasing the workouts, kind of middle of the day in the West Coast, especially the further west you are, it can be super tempting to just start doing them. But there's also definitely some value in sitting down and having a conversation with your team, whoever that looks like, and talk about what's going to be best for you. I don't think there's any stress from a time perspective for athletes this year.
No. But it's almost like there's so much time that it gives you so much time to redo. So that's what's messing with me, is like, we have all this time. Should I be doing one tonight so I can redo it again on Monday or Friday, you know?
You actually have fun redoing the workouts, which
I do. But it's fun for the open because you can see people posting. The blind leaderboard is a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
Because you don't know till it's too late.
Yeah.
Well, you mean you're not going to call Danielle and be like, "Hey, Daniel, what'd you get?"
There's people I would call. Like, I would reach out to Spiegel. I would reach out to Alex Gazan. I know Danielle isn't in my region, so it doesn't matter. That's where it's different a little bit than the open. I was trying to compete against everybody. Whatever Danielle does doesn't matter.
No, but it could still potentially be just like a benchmark. Okay, she got that many reps. That's kind of what I thought would be in the ballpark. Or you'd be like, wow, that's kind of 10 reps better than I thought, or less, or whatever.
Right. It's good if I beat her. It's bad if I hear her score and she's 50 reps ahead.
Yeah, 50 reps ahead on any workout would be bad. But there's a couple workouts here that I think are pretty good for her, too.
I agree.
I don't think you'll take a clean sweep against her in the quarterfinals.
No. If I do, it doesn't matter. I don't got to compete against her since the games. Josh, what would you do? Which workout would you do first?
Unsolicited free coaching advice coming right now.
Mhm.
Unsolicited free coaching advice.
I would tell Ariel anything she wants to know. She knows that.
I know.
I would, gosh, if I were doing this work, I haven't considered that at all. For myself personally, I would probably do the gymnastics first, just because it's one where it's like the load on it's the least. Like if it goes poorly, I can always set that up to be able to redo. The one I would want to make sure I don't ever redo is the step up one, just because I think that would be, for me personally, like the opportunity to get the most sore. And I want to make sure that like it's my best go at it and I'm done with it. The clean and jerk one is kind of in the camp of the gymnastics one, at least for me, where it's, I know for me that'd probably be the best finish of all of them. And I would just probably do it last for that reason. And so I guess that means that I would do the burpee box jump over 1 second.
Cool.
Yeah, that would be me.
Yeah,
I think it's nice, a nice
Question
combination of workouts where you'll get a variety of different strategies. And it also, just there is that little extra time pressure of the first two workouts being due on Saturday. I was listening to Taylor Self earlier saying, I just don't feel good about doing a workout the same day that it's due as my only like version of that workout. And I think
Yeah.
that there are probably a lot of athletes that resonate with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My question for Ariel is this: how is the gym going, and how much time is Dylan spending on it on the daily? Because it seems like it's going so fast. We think we lost her.
Sorry.
She did not
How's
like
the
the
gym
question.
going? And
Yeah. How much time is Dylan spending on the gym, like on the daily? Because it seems like it's just coming together so fast.
It is and it isn't. So the gym is coming good. We have the Rogue rig. It's not put up yet. Right now, the electricity is still getting done. We actually had a sit-down conversation about that the other night because we were like, man, there's so much to do. And I'm like, Dylan, I know you're the best at what you do, but like you got to ask for help. Because at first it was like, let's have it.
Oh, man.
Sorry. For some reason, people want to call me as soon as I get on a podcast. At first it was, let's have it done by quarterfinals because I don't have a rope that's big enough. So I haven't been to a legit gym in Midland. I can't even tell you how long. So I have to go to a gym for that workout. So I was like, I would have loved if it was done for quarters. Unfortunately, it's not.
He should be out there right now making that rope happen for you.
He actually is out there right now. So he gets home from work about 7 p.m. and he'll work back there from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m.
Wow.
And so I'm like,
beast.
I know you're a hard worker, but also like I enjoy your company. Come inside with us. So there's that fine line of work and balance and family and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. In the ultimate form of flattery, I'll share this too. Is like, for me at least, Ariel has told me privately and publicly on Instagram that I would be coaching at that gym if I wasn't in my current position.
I can't hear you.
And it always means a lot to me.
Can you hear him, Brian?
Yes.
Oh, you can? I can't hear him.
That's okay.
No.
You didn't need to do that.
We've already covered the bases that your phone and the technology setup there is limited.
I'm so sorry. You're not
Patrick,
wrong.
I actually I got to get going. I have to go to the gym to coach tonight. You're on mute right now, Patrick. So everyone's doing well here at the end of the.
Yeah.
You guys are really coming off the bus.
Sorry. No. Thanks, Ariel, for jumping on. I just thought it'd be kind of cool to get your take. And Josh, awesome having you on, man. We definitely need to get both you guys back on again. And we appreciate everything you do. Hey, and how Blakely do at gymnastics?
Good. They had a skill in the class that she was the only one that could do out of 15 girls. So that's a good day.
Yeah, that's good.
Must be in the genetics.
But it's fun. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks. All right.
Bye.
Yeah. So kind of a little surprise. Brian needs to get going, so we could have went all day with that, but my bad on that. So, but anyways, thanks for everyone for chatting with us, joining us. There's a lot of stuff out there today. I know a lot of stuff going on in terms of quarterfinals. So hopefully, you're enjoying all the content, and that's what we're about. We're all about just putting content and options out there. So, we appreciate everyone that's live and joining us for the chat. So, well, as always, thanks. Shout out to HCR CBD and 20%. Use Brian friend 20 and get 20% off your HGR CBD orders. And as always, be friendly, our friends.